Alright, so now that the internet went down, I have to do this video. At least it was nice enough to allow me to do the mechanics first, and now I could finish up with the mods thereafter. So now that the mechanics was in the last video, the mods will be in this one. So you're now in your ship. You have your Warframe, Excalibur, Mag, Volt. You then go to the back of your ship, and then you access something called Care. You press on the button to interact with it, and you now have the same button you use for moving your Warframe, your L3. It's now become a mouse. It's a mouse um, cursor. So you then go up and down cursor, and on your left you see the various different things. You see the Warframe. You would see other things as well at the bottom. Now you won't see these things at the bottom if you haven't accessed certain part of the mission, um, which are part of certain stories or certain Warframe stories. So this is part of a story, so you probably won't see that. And this is part of a story, so you won't see that. But you will see your primary Warframe, your primary weapon, your primary secondary weapon, your melee weapon, and the Warframe's powers, which is here. All the two things comes as part of a story. Now, when you go on to, you would see something pop up next to each of these. These are the drop-down menus for what they are, for what each of these represents. And it's kind of simple, stupid. It's basically swap, press X, and you're able to see the different type of Warframe that you could go back, and then you press the circle back button, and then go on to here again, press the triangle button, but you don't really have to press the triangle button. So that's a nice little mechanics as well in the game, but this isn't about mechanics. Sometimes you just press X on each one of them and it'll bring them up. You don't necessarily have to press the button that it says. You just press the interactive button on them, the X button, and as long as you're pressing the button on them, it goes straight in. Now, if you're first playing the game, it might not let you do that, but if you play for a while, it'll probably let you do that. Or maybe it does at the same time. It doesn't really matter. The point is, my internet is working again. It didn't fall off, so now we're going into mods, and it says so right here. So the bread and butter of this game is mods. Mods assist your mechanics. Mods assist your powers. Mods assist your survivability. Mods assist your secondaries as well, such as pets, companions. Mods assist something called the Tenno, which is also the person that's operating the Warframe. Mods assist a giant tank, which is I think it was rail giant. No, that's not it. What's it? Damn it, Necromech. Mods assist a giant thing called Necromech. These are all things that will pop up later on. You don't need to know this if you're first starting the game. All you need to know is you go to the back of your ship. Once you're in your ship, you will see this thing called Arsenal. You access it. You will see all this onto the side. You will see everything, your primary, secondary, and your melee weapons. You won't see this. You won't see this because those are attached to the story, but you will see this. And then you do what it says to the side here. You press this. You go into your mods, and you will see at the very bottom the type of mods that you collected within your tutorial once you access the game. Now, depending on what the game gives you as mods, you now can use any of those mods in order to upgrade this Warframe. Now, your Warframe level is going to be described up here. 10, 12, 13, 14. That's basically saying how far the Warframe has been upgraded. Once it gets to 30, 30 is the max that the Warframe has been upgraded. That's the max Warframe can be upgraded. Level 30, there's no level 31, 32, 33, 34. 30 is the max that any Warframe can be upgraded to. So once you get to 30, Bob's your uncle. Everything is done. Now, what that also means once you upgrade to level 30, your capacity slot increased. Every time you get to 1, to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5, to 6, to 7, before you get to 30, your capacity slot is also increasing as well. I wish I have a new Warframe I just built, but I can't do it that way. Okay, so the only way I could think of doing it is this way. Or, oh, here's another neat little thing. If you hold down on the triangle, rather than triangle button is for removing mods on your Warframe, but if you hold down, same button you use for holding down to use your melee weapon to switch, if you hold down your triangle while you're on this menu, pointing on anyone, it would then bring up a menu system that says, do you want to remove all of your mods out at the same time? You press yes, everything is removed all at once. A nice little part of the mechanics of the game. Very good, especially when you're playing this game and you need to get rid of everything at the same time. Very good. So your capacity, max capacity you're allowed to have is 60 at rank 30. At your max rank, you are going to be given 60. Now, during the process of this, you will then go back to your base standard stats. At the max upgraded rank of 30, everything that was on your left side, this is to describe who you are. Your health, your shields, your armor, your energy. This describes what you are. You go into your menu, you press on the triangle like it tells you, and this pops up. And what's on the left is exactly who you are. This describes you. You are the Warframe. This is you. This pops up. This is how much this character called Mesa has at max 30 rank. This is how much health. Now, if you're not at max 30, it would elevate from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Every one of these things will steadily increase. So at max 30, this is how much this Warframe would have. Now, why the game mods are the bread and butter of this game is because the mods will change all this in order to give you a distinct advantage over your enemy in the game, no matter how powerful your enemy is, how fast your enemy is, or what type of weapon your enemy is carrying. And each of these mods fall into different categories, and they're all important with regards to what you're trying to accomplish against your enemy. So your enemy in this game are 5 types. 5. 1 are those who use laser weapons and shields. 2 are those who use armors and bullet guns. 3 are those who use charging attacks, such as running at you and slash you, like slashing weapons. They don't use bullets, they don't use lasers. 4 are those who use bombs, or those who use bomb effects, AoE damage effects. And 5 are those who use powers, similar to that of a Warframe, powers. Now, you could resist any one of these enemies based on these categories, because in a mission, you will always run into 1, 2, or 3 of these enemies all at the same time. It's very rarely that you meet all 5 of these enemies at the same time in a mission, unless you're in an endless survival mission, which means you're going to be playing over and over and over and over and over again until those 5 types show up in the mission. So let's say that you want to build your Warframe to deal with all 5 of these types, which you should. You then have to pick the mod in conjunction to the logic of these types. There are going to be enemies that use lasers. I need to pick a mod that deals with dealing with enemies that do lasers. Sure. Defense against lasers. Sure. What you would do is you would go into defense first. The defense is represented by something that looks similar to that of a shield. Like you have this, this. These are the symbols. They mean nothing to you. But the closest thing that represents something similar to that of a shield is here. Close. Or you could say this almost looks like it at the same time. But that's something different. This is your defense. It's called Vazarin. And Vazarin is all about defense. So if you're thinking first, I need to survive the onslaught of these enemies, this is where you go to first. At the very bottom, where you can press L1, R1, back and forth, as it says right here, and it says right here. At the bottom is where all your mods are. And at the bottom is where you could go from left all the way to right. You could either click over them to your mouse, and you could select the ones that you want. So the first one that's over here, the infinity sign, represents everything. And you see this in every game. It means all. It means all defense, power. It does everything that's set here is here. Everything. Now, if you don't want all, you want them to go through each of them individually and select them. I would always suggest to do so from the logical point of view of the enemy types that you're going to be fighting, or the enemy classes that you're going to be fighting. If you figure you're going to fight all different types of enemy all at once, you would then have to pick the appropriate mod for fighting all enemies at once. So let's do this from a beginner's point of view. The first line that you see here at the bottom is something that's called your aura. So let's say if you're dealing with all 5 of those type of enemies, logically, whoever's the dominant enemy in that mission is the one you have to concentrate your aura on to deal with most. The game will eventually throw enemies that have lasers or throw enemies that just charge at you and slash you, but you always want to put the mod in with regards to configuration to either support and assist your fellow Warframes or to deal with the primary enemy type that you're going to be fighting in mission. So in this case, let's say your primary enemy type is a Corpus enemy. Corpus enemy is one of the enemies in the game. Another enemy name is Grineer. Another enemy is Infested. Another enemy is Sentient. Another enemy is Corrupted. 5 different enemy types. So your main enemy is going to be Corpus. Let's say your main enemy in the mission are going to be Corpus, but every now and again a Grineer and an Infested pop up in the mission randomly because the game is just throwing random stuff at you. But the primary enemy in the game will always be the Corpus, and they will always be your main enemy, objective on the enemy, because that's the planet that you're on. So knowing this, that they are going to be the primary antagonist, you then can choose either 3 things. I don't care that they're the primary, and I will go to healing myself. 2, I do care that they're the primary, and I'll go to defending myself. Or 3, I also don't care, but at the same time I do care. I'll go for attack. So in this case, logically, you will go for either attack or to defend yourself. So if your Corpus, the enemy that's seen in this image is a Corpus enemy. And Corpus, what do they have? Shields. They all rock shields. So if you know the primary enemy that you're going to be fighting in the next mission, or the next mission after that, whatever the type of enemy you're fighting, you use your aura of the very first lot in order to fight that enemy. So your next one that you will go through with regards to your mods, and as you see, as you put a mod on, your mod capacity does not change with regards to aura. This is a nice thing, very nice. You would think, well, it shouldn't have changed. No, the best part does not change your capacity slot. Everything else at the bottom does eventually in time, so that's a good thing. Now you go to the next one, and the next one at the bottom, after you go from aura, going left to right, is augment. And augment, what augment does, augment is here. Augment is the next mod right next to your aura. What that means is an augment is to augment you in towards having an advantage in the against the enemy. So all these mods is to help you, but augment is to augment you with to having an advantage over your enemy. A little boost, you will call it. Just like your aura, you said, well, the aura is a boost. The aura is technically not a boost. The aura is the effect that you will have to use against your enemy to have an advantage to yourself. All of the mods are an advantage, but the aura is mostly like, how would I describe it? If you ever watch Hunter x Hunter, that's what I meant. If you ever watch Hunter x Hunter, that's what I'm meaning. If you're using Go or Cho, that's what I'm talking about. Or Dragon Ball Z Ki, that's what an aura is. It's your ki. So that's what that is. That helps you in the long run. Your augment, on the other hand, is also a boost towards your survivability with your aura. So we're now in augment territory. So I'm gonna go for augment. Oh, wait a minute. No, no, I'm thinking about this. Oh, geez. All right. So they have the augment in front of this. No, I mean they have the exumus in front of this. This is augment. This is exumus. This is exumus. All right. So we're going for augment. I'm not seeing correctly. So the augment is the next, right next to aura. What augment is your special superpowers. Basically, that's an additional power set that's given to you, a secondary. Here it is. You go on here and it shows your ability. Your ability pops up towards the bottom. And these are your powers, like Superman having superpowers, super lasers, fast flying, super strong punch, so on and so forth. What your augment basically is, your augment is basically the thing that allows for these various different superpowers to have even more powers. That's what an augment is. Or it augments what was the standard of that power of Superman's laser eyes or Superman's ice breath or Superman's super speed into something very different. Like say, if I want to augmented Superman's laser eyes to be fireballs rather than just lasers, based on the enemy I'm going to be fighting. The enemy is more resistant to lasers, but is not resistant towards fire eyeball lasers. So you would use that augment in order to have an advantage over your enemy. That's what an augment is. It changes the normal set of what it is that you're having. For instance, you have something of this character, and this character's power is ballistic battery, shooting gallery, shatter shield, and peacemaker. If you remember those names, you then go towards your augment at the bottom, and you see it says right here, ballistic bullseye, ballistic battery, and this, under the subtitles of ballistic bullseye is the name of your power. Right here, it also says shooting gallery, shoot muzzle flash is associated with shooting gallery. And of course, staggering shield is associated with shattered shield. So these are all augmentations of your powers, either to amplify it or to change it up to your advantage. So let's say we don't want our shattered shields to do what our shattered shields typically does. We want it to do something different. We want to reflect bullets that have a chance to stagger enemies and a base of 50% chance increased with power strength. So we've now added this augment in order to boost our power or to change it up to give a significant advantage of ourselves against the enemies. That's what an augment is. The next on this list is exumus. So if you're going from left to right, the next on the list is exumus, the one that I was going to talk about that's up here. And exumus is also similar to what an aura is. It's a boost. The augmentation is not really augmentation is more like I said, switching off one's powers or boosting one's powers using something different. The exumus, however, is more of the boost that I'm talking about. So let's say we go with this exumus. It's kind of like aura, but not really. What it does is, depending on what type of enemy you're fighting as well, depending on what type of situation you're in as well, it adds a boost towards the aura that you're going to be using. Like say this exumus boosts your aura. So typically what exumus does is an exumus either boost the aura or boost the Warframe's capabilities to do an action. That's what an exumus does. So it's basically a booster of a type. a type booster that of either the effects of one's ability to either shoot, jump, run, whatever it is, it's a booster. Basically, you could call Exumus booster effects. It boosts either your mod, it boosts your shadow shield, it's a booster, basically. You could call it that. It increase your aim glide, it does something, it boosts whatever was there before and amplifies it. Or give it a type of capabilities it didn't have before. It just boosts it. Whereas augmentations just changes it. It doesn't really boost it. So that said, moving on to the next one. Now this is where you would want to say, okay, um, all that sounds great and everything, but I really want to kill enemies fast. Um, but I really don't want to kill enemies fast. I just don't want to die fast. So we'll skip the one that kills. The Matarai does the killing. So we'll go straight to the one that does the defense. So here, the Vazarin, like I said, is the one that does the defense. And all the mods that pop up below once you click on it are the ones that does the defense. As a standard, Matarai will always be the defense mod. So depending on the enemy you're fighting. We are going to be fighting Corpus enemies. Our aura indicates that the enemy that we're going to go towards are primarily going to be Corpus enemies. So we are primarily going to need defense fighting against Corpus enemies. So we're going to look for mod that allows us to resist status effect from Corpus enemies and resist the guns of Corpus enemies, and which means laser guns or puncture guns. Basically any guns that does line of sight guns that I call heat sensitive guns that tracks you, because the Corpus are more mech-like, robotic-like, and does things based on calculations. Their weapons are scan, hit and scan type, or scan hit types. Basically, it sees you, where you are, where you're standing, and it shoots you to where you're standing. But it scans where you're going to move to next, so that the bullets that follows thereafter, or the laser that follows thereafter, tracks where you are to then go and shoot over in that directions. That's called hit scan weapons. So knowing the fact that they have hit scan laser weapons, or figure out what type of damage effect the weapon does and the type of weapon that they're using. They're using lasers. So I need something that would resist lasers, and laser weapons are typically radiation weapons, and I need something that won't be able to track me based on hit scan that well. So in regards to the shield disruption, that's more as disrupting the enemy shield. So as an aura, that might not play out. That might not play up the way you want it to. So you really have to think on your feet with regards to everything that you're going to be using in the weapon. So if you're thinking about survival, you're not going to really want to be considered shield disruption. Shield disruption is more like if you want to kill them faster. Shield disruption is more, or should I say, what I'm looking for is, should be present somewhere here. EMP aura. EMP aura is basically exactly what it is, an EMP bomb to disrupt Corpus enemies. 15%. This will allow them to not hit you accurately. They will always be 15% off on their hit rate, which is not that great, but it allows the damage effect of the 45% to now becomes 30%, or depending on where you are, where you're standing. If you run out the way fast enough, it'll be 30%, but if you don't run out the way fast enough, it'll probably be like 35%, 10%. It all depends on the strength of the weapon. Now, if the weapon is really strong, it won't matter if it's 15%, you will still get got. That's why you have this mod on, to resist the radiation effect. So now you're not only missing 15% of the enemy's accuracy towards aiming towards you, you now have the ability to resist the damage effect on you as well. So you're not only, the enemy is not only going to be missing, but they're not going to be doing much damage on you because you're able to resist the type of guns that the enemy is using. And this is the same that goes for Grenier, and this is the same that goes for Corrupted. You then have to know the type of enemy you're going to be fighting, put the R in the slot, put what defense against the enemy's R in the slot, and use the augmentation in order to boost you with regards to the enemy. Now, then you go towards, okay, I have something to defend myself, but I have to defend myself more. I have 2 defense slots. So now I'm going to put another defense slot here. And as I see over here, my health has not changed. My shield has not changed. My armor has not changed. And I want to do something about this. Yes, I have a defense slot for the effects of what will be hitting me based on aura or based on AoE if it's radiation over from their guns, but I have not changed my armor, my shields, or my health defense with regards to the damage I will receive in return. So even if I receive 45% of the damage, because my health is low or my shield is low, I might die regardless. So I have to bump those up. So what I'll do right now is I'll increase my vitality by putting it here in order so even if I do take a good amount of damage, let's say I take the full 45, let's say I miss only 5% off of the 45 and I take the full 45. I don't see how that would be possible, but let's say that does happen, and I only managed to get out the way and I took a full 40 and 5% went off. All that effect will damage me, but it still won't kill me because my base 500 health has now been boosted to 1,000. So 500 might be gone, but I will still have an additional 500 or 550, depending on resistance towards that effect. That's why I have more vitality on, and it's very important. Now, there's also the possibility that, let's say I get out the way because I have this mod on, and he only took about 200 of my health off. That's great, so I don't really need vitality, but I need to resist, or I need to turn off the effect of the damage done from the radiation, because there's a duration period on with regards to the damage from the radiation. So it all depends on what it is I want. Do I really want to change up my augmented powers in order to affect, or do I want to take off the status effect of radiation from it? Because even though I resist the amount, there's a duration cooldown period with regards to it staying on and then coming off. And there are going to be multiple enemies in the mission. So it's up to me to decide, do I want to cancel it out then and there, or I want it to stay on for a long period because of like 1 or 2 enemies. Typically, you're always going to be surrounded by enemies. So I would put this on, I'll put this on, and I'll have this on. So that's, and keep my standard powers rather than having on augmented powers with regards to fighting Corpus. So now after I have all my defenses in place, and this is what I want, I then go over to my strength ability. And Madurai are represented by strength. By selecting the different damage type or selecting the power type, you then select it, you then put it in a Madurai slot, and then you're able to increase your strength as it shows here. Now each of these slots represents a certain type of sign type or symbol type. Minus signs, like the defense signs, and then the like V signs. These are representations of the different type of capability. No, not capables. The different type of, I would say, effects. No, not effects. The different type of, how would I describe it? Mapping? No. Focality. Okay. The different type of focus that you're trying to do. That's what I'm going to call it. A different type of focus you're about to do. That's what I'll call it. What I'm trying to say is, if I'm trying to focus on a specific type of thing that I'm trying to get to, I'm trying to do, that's what they are. Madurai, Vazarin, Naruman, Zenuric, Umbra, so on and so forth. What I'm trying to focus on. So these are different focus types. Basically, you could call it focus types. They're not really called focus types, but they're associated with focus school. And the focus school is what you're focusing on, what you're training yourself, what you are basically, like if you're in a dojo or something. What is the school's main focus? That's what you're focusing on. So these are basically focus types. That's the best way I could describe it. The symbol represents the focus type that you're trying to do. Here, I have 3 focus types with regards to keeping myself alive, defending myself. And I have 3 focus types with regards to keeping the efficiency of my survival, which I have 3 efficiency, and then I have 1 with regards to damage effects with regards to my survival on this character. But as I've learned in the past, I don't really need to depend on that at all. Because the beautiful thing about Umbra is that if you augment using the Umbra focus, you can increase an effect type that you want over here if you team them up together. That's the beautiful part about Umbra. Umbra would boost the effect type that you're trying to do. Let's say I want more armor, and let's say I want more damage. If I put the Umbra fibers and the Umbra Intensify together, I've now boosted my armor and my strength. So both of these combined together allow for boosting effects. You won't get that if you, like, say, it won't happen. Like, say, if I just put in the Intensify and I go to the regular armor and I put the regular armor on, and what is it? Where is it? The regular armor on. It doesn't change. They both stay separate from each other. They only increase individually towards each other. See, I put this on, your armor increase. I put this on, this increase. But if I go to Umbra, I put this on Umbra, that increase. I remove it. I put this on, that increase. And that's 144, and that is 1000. But if I put them together, they've both changed. It's no longer 144 and 1000. They've boosted each other. Whereas if you put the regular mods, they don't boost each other. So that's the beautiful part about Umbras. So moving on from that, now that I have both health and I have damage, and because I've put them together and I boosted both the health and the damage together, increasing my damage, I now have my defense all set. My defense for diamond skin against radiation, my defense with regards to vitality for having more vitality, and my rolling guard defense with regards to removing status effect if I'm ever affected by a radiation that lingers on my body rather than me just resisting it. It lingers on my body. I could cancel it out. Or if I cancel it out and another enemy hit me from behind 1 second after, my resistance will be able to hold up just about long enough for me to do another roll thereafter 10 seconds later. I think it's about 12 seconds. No, about 7 seconds. 7 seconds later. So those are my defense. 1, 2, 3. And this is my damage output. Now, because the beautiful part about these two together boost each other, which boosts my strength, I now can put an additional strength over here with regards to this character. So in this case, I am going to add another damage output. The only bad part about this damage output is that it reduces my duration for me to use the ability. But like I've said before, each focus school is different. And the focus school of Narimon is to give you the efficiency and the duration to do an ability. So where most focus schools, their main thing is to increase your defense or to increase your damage output. This focus school is to sustain the efficiency of your damage output or sustain the efficiency of your duration while you're doing damage output. So in this case, because you don't want your duration to go into the red, you want it to stay either where it is or to give yourself more duration so you can have more continuation of using your damage output. You would then select your efficiency type here, which I did, and you apply something that would boost your efficiency here. Constitution allows you to have 28% more duration, which get me back into the positive zone. Green represents positive and out of the red. And at the same time, it has, because it's a mod, it has an additional effect of 40% faster knockdown recovery. So it just has a boosted effect. It not just does a thing, it has an additional effect. That's why I say mods are your bread and butter. Sometimes if you combine two mods together, they don't just do what they're supposed to do individually, they have boosted effects. If I put this on, it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do, give you duration. It has a boosted effects. It has 40% faster staggered knockdown recovery. And sometimes you just have something that just does something, but not all mods are the same. Some mods allows you to do a thing, which is to remove an effect on you, and it does just that one thing, while other mods allow you to do one thing but gives you an additional other thing attached to it. And these typical mods, these yellow mods, are the rare mods, and they're the most valuable mods in the game. Typically when you find a yellow mod, it means that it's rare and it's important. It's not always the case, but it means it's very effective than any other mods, and it's very helpful towards your survivability. So the mods that you should always look out for are three types and three color types. One red, one white, and one yellow. Those are your main mods that you want to always look out for. And I say this because the Umbra mods are some of the strongest mod, but they're not really that strong. They're simply there to boost off each other. And they're more used when you're fighting sentient enemies more than anything. But people typically use them in order to get boost with regards to power or duration or armor. So you would look out for those mods. And then the next mods you will look out for are yellow mods. You use them more than you will use blue mods because they're more effective and they have additional, sometimes they have additional things attached to them. You don't have just 12.5 ability strength. You have an additional things attached to them. That's what makes them rare. They don't just have one thing. They typically always have an additional thing attached to them. So, or sometimes that additional thing attached to them is a bad thing. But the primary thing that they have that makes them rare is that they are very strong. So first you will always look out for is yellow mods, and then white mods, and then red. What I meant by red, I guess it's not really red, it's more like brown, but how would I call it? It's more like, yeah, it's more like brown uh, rather than red. So these brown mods that you will see here, not the blue ones, these brown mods are typically mods that you will look out for. So it's yellow, brown, and white. Those are the mods you will always look out for because the yellow, brown, and white, which I call it red, I don't know why, are the ones that have the effects that you need more than any other one. Every now and again you will find mods that are constituted as blue that have additional effects and they're different. But the main ones are always the brown, the yellow, and the white mods. Those are the ones that you will always want to use more than anything else, because especially yellow, because they are more effective than anything else. and they have special perks attached to them that you will need in mission, especially white mods. White mods of any type are those you will always want to sought after. They're not always Umbra, but if they're white in color, they're considered legendary and rare. So moving on from that, I'm now going to fill out the rest of the slot. So always remember this. At the bottom, your aura goes here, which is for the enemy type that you're going to be fighting or the type that you need in mission. Do I want to help myself? Do I want to defend myself? Or I want to affect the enemy that I'm going to be fighting against? Usually it's defense, attack, or effect. That's what R is for. Do I want to go on the attack? Do I want to go on defense? Do I want to go on the support? That's what R is there for. In this case, I want to affect the enemy in an aura in order to support my fellow clan members or my fellow people that I'm going to be in mission. I won't be thinking mostly about myself, but I'll be thinking more about helping others using this mod. So that's what I'm going to do. And of course, going from mod, you go to augment, and going from augment, you go to exumus, and then you go to Madurai, and then you go to defense, and then you go to efficiency, and then you go to energy, and then you go to umbra, and then you go to the miscellaneous. So I would say that's how that works. Those how the mod works in this game. Yellow is legendary. I mean, white is legendary. If you find a white mod that's white in color, always go for it. Yellow is rare. You should always use it. And of course, brown would come in third. Now, since I'm going for efficiency, I'm going to now see how can I boost additional more things here. Do I want to boost my shields? Do I want to boost my armor? Do I want to boost my energy? I think I want to boost my energy. So I'm going to look for something to boost my energy. So in this case, Energy Nexus. This allows for Warframe to have +3 energy regen per second. So it's going to be steadily giving me +3 energy per second. But let's say I'm in mission, I'm thinking to myself, well, that will take too long. I might need, based on the power, you look at the power of your character, and based on the energy that's needed to cast an ability, you have 25, you have 75, you have 50, and you have 25. It might take you a while to get to those different energy numbers in order to get the energy you have, and you only have at base 190. So even though 3 energies per second is nice, the time it will take you to get there might take some time. So you might be more reliant on using your weapons and your melee until it reaches that threshold. But here's another thing. Damage, once you take a significant amount of damage, damage that you take on your Warframe drains energy to repair your Warframe. So knowing that, like a med kit, your Warframe siphons off energy in order to repair itself. You now will be taking the energy you gain from Energy Nexus to repair the damage on your Warframe. So you would want even more energy knowing this. So flow allows you to have an additional 100 more energy, which brings it, no, 150 or 100 more energy, which brings it up to, let me see if I'm saying this correctly, 380 more energy. So now you have more energy even if you do take damage in order to fight your enemy. Now, that said for everything with regards to modding. So I don't think I need to speak anything more on modding. I've said everything with regards to modding, and now we're going to move over here because this is part of the whole modding effect. Even though this is not a mod, these are arcanes and they are boosters, just like your augment Exilus is also a booster towards the effect of your aura or a booster towards the mechanic of your Warframe. You have arcanes are also attached towards your modifications. It's like Cloud's Buster